Okay, I've got top of the hour, 11 o'clock on the West Coast, 2 o'clock on the East Coast. Guys, welcome, everybody, welcome to today's sixth Virtual Thursday training session for 2017. Today's topic is the latest and greatest system reports. Basically, the new report, we're going to just do a once-over of all the new reports that have deployed into the system since January, as well as a look at some of the reports that have changed to reflect the various changes within our different modules since the first of the year. Before we get started, just a quick shout out. I see some familiar names in here. Nancy Shane out at Kentwood, Michigan. Nancy, good to see you. And Chief Hines out at Fort Bragg. Thanks a lot for joining. Always good to have both of you there. And I know you're frequent participants, both with Virtual Thursdays as well as just power users with the system. So thanks for joining in today. Along with me today is one of our newest regional trainers. I'll introduce him momentarily, but his name's Mike Mazzoni out of Missouri. Get that right? Kirkwood, right? Right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'll be one of the presenters. You guys, many of you know me from previous Virtual Thursday training sessions, and I'd like to introduce Mike. Great to have him as part of our team. Mike, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll press on here with the presentation.
Very good. As Tom said, my name is Michael Mazzoni. Currently a full-time engineer paramedic with the City of Kirkwood Fire Department in Kirkwood, Missouri, about 30 miles outside of St. Louis for those who aren't familiar. I'm in the Midwest region. I'm glad to be a part of this training team. Been an emergency reporting user now going on 6 years, I believe it is. As that is, been in the service for a total 14 years. So at my department, obviously we're experiencing a big, large generational change. So I'm kind of like the guru of emergency reporting. So I'm glad to be along for that and be along for this to help out where I can.
Right on, Mike. Thanks. I'm glad you're with us today. Your audio is a little bit scratchy. Is mine scratchy on your end?
Yeah.
Yours, I just want to make sure the audio is good throughout for everybody. Yours just was a little cutting in and out, a little choppy. I just want to make sure it's not the GoToMeeting system, or even my audio is bad too.
I'll reconnect while you're talking here.
Okay, sounds good. But mine's coming over okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a little plug for our regional training. We're going to be calling them regional training academies, actually, starting with this summer. But we've got San Diego from May 9th through May 11th. We've got just a couple seats left, guys. We're selling these out like crazy. The one in Austin was amazing. Just fantastic learning session for the 3 days. They went by so fast, but everybody was sharing some great ideas. So if you are interested, I know on our login page, if you click through to this link, through the link on the login page for this academy, you'll be able to get more information about it. The next one coming up, which we haven't quite released it yet to the public or to our customers, but you guys get first shot, is one coming up, and they got to change that to Academy. But our Regional Training Academy in Cleveland from July 25th through July 27th, that will be posting soon. And if you go to Eventbrite now, it's there. So eventbrite.com, just do a search for emergency reporting, and it'll take you right to both the San Diego one and the Cleveland, Ohio event. So Cleveland does rock. That's my place of birth, so I'm kind of excited. I hope I get a chance to go back. So I wanted to share with you guys, this just came out, as a matter of fact, it just came out, I believe, today or yesterday, but North Myrtle Beach Fire Rescue is replacing their decade-old reporting software, and the local news station, WBTW, say that fast 5 times, WBTW, did a nice news piece on it, one of the local network affiliates. And so there's the link there, and I'll once we go into the main session, I'll copy this and put it into the chat window. But it's a nice story about that department as well as emergency reporting. So feel free, to share this link with people around you if they're considering emergency reporting, and it's just nice to see some really positive press, both for our fire department and for emergency reporting. But I'll share that with you momentarily. Good stuff there. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to take you through the...
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and change the slide?
Oh, for goodness sakes. That's thanks. Let's go back. Let's go back. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you can see the pretty slides. San Diego's almost sold out, as I mentioned. Cleveland, you didn't even get to see Mike. So there's Mike.
Oh, thank you.
Got to make sure we get Mike in there. Sorry, guys, I didn't. I had it on pause. My bad. San Diego's almost sold out. Cleveland's coming up in July, and we've got the story about North Myrtle Beach Fire Rescue, and I'll share that link with you guys here. Okay, we're back on track. Um, the Today's objectives. We're going to cover the most recent additions to the reports module, and these are the numbers here. I'm going to go through them one at a time, both in a demo account and perhaps a live account. And if anybody is able and willing, just send a little, ask the question and just in a form of a statement, just say, hey, you can use my account. And I've got some like Fort Bragg's I can get into pretty quickly. I'd have to search the access numbers for the others, but I can also make you a presenter if you wanted to show your account. So we want to get a mix of both demo accounts as well as live accounts. So as we go through that, feel free to run these reports in your account as we're going through it. And if yours looks awesome and you want to share it with the group, just let me know, and I'll probably just make you a presenter to show it, and then I'll take the screen back. No pressure. You don't have to feel like you have to talk or anything unless you want to share something with us. So we've got apparatus replacement date by NFIRS apparatus type. It's a new report. We'll get into that one. Maintenance history for vehicle number. Okay, so not just by the apparatus ID, the call sign, but now we can track it more effectively by the vehicle number. The driver summary report. This is a new report. It was a big ask from our customers to be able to track when personnel are driving on incidents. And so this gives a count. It doesn't give a total time, but you can go look into the different incidents to see the time spent driving. But this report, however, whoever we worked with, one of our customers worked with it to develop it. This was meeting their needs, so I can share that with you for tracking driver operator incident drive times. Apparatus maintenance history for maintenance type. So if you want to just see routine inspections, major repairs, minor repairs, that's a new report. This is a big one for the DoD, is the apparatus out of service time for apparatus ID, for vehicle number, for maintenance type. These are you know our reports are a mouthful, but remember the word for is a filter. And so when you see the word for, it's going to have a good report with filters that you can really drill down into to get the data you're looking for. Now, one thing we're working on this one, and I'm sure our DoD customers have already discovered this, and I'll mention it when we get there. This goes on behind the scenes, and there's a couple issues with it that I want to talk about, but we're gonna be adjusting those as we move on. And then we've got some occupancy related reports here. Inspection type per occupancy for inspectors, so any prevention personnel on with us today. I'll show you that report. The next two deal with custom questions, and if you've ever been on any of my virtual Thursdays or onboarding sessions, I'm a big fan of our custom question feature. It lets you capture data that otherwise NFIRS or Nemesis doesn't capture, and now we've added two more really good reports that pull from those custom questions, and it adds a percentages involved with it. So I'll show you those. For our Nemesis 3 customers, and those are relatively few at this point, only a few states have it, Ohio, Washington. Some of our DoD customers have chosen to go with it, even though they don't report to the state, and that's why they can actually use it now. So this gives you a state validation report, and by running it, you can see more easily which reports got to the state versus those that did not. Or let me rephrase that. They got to the state, but whether they were valid or not. So I'll show you that here in a bit. Some updated reports, we'll run through those. These are reports that have been in the system, but we added some features like a date picker, and category and subcategory pickers, and then some columns to the actual report. A bunch related to the maintenance module. We'll probably just hit a couple of those, and then our new Nemesis 3 related reports. So a lot of these reports we're only pulling from the Nemesis 2, which is still applicable to almost all of you. But those of you using Nemesis 3, our development team is doing a great job getting these reports updated, because as you notice, we develop software under the Agile method, and so we're always making changes every 2 weeks. So if you ever wonder why on your iPhone or your Android, while you get update reminders, if you don't have it automatically set, you get update reminders and they seem to be every couple weeks, they're probably following Agile as well. So they're making incremental changes. Software is never finished, and so we're always making changes, and we release them every 2 weeks. And so some of the reports related to the EMS and EPCRs are still exclusively Nemesis 2, but these all are now pulling data from Nemesis 3. And so as we go through some of these reports, I'm also going to show you where they're being drawn from so you can understand them better. Okay, let's get it started. Let me clear out of the PowerPoint and we'll jump straight into an account. And we'll get started with these various reports. So the first one I want to go over is 1696. And I know all of you are probably aware that when you go to the reports module, if you know the name of the report, you can type it in, of course, but if you know the doc ID or the report ID number, you can type it in here, click search, and it's going to take you directly to that report. Okay, and of course, if you like a report, you're going to add it to your favorites. So if you ever get to a report and this link is in here, it means it's already in your favorites. So if I were to add that to my favorites, that hyperlink goes away. It's like, well, where is it? It's because this report is now in my list of favorites somewhere. And a trick that you need to know, because I've had this asked many times by our customers, like, what does a report number mean? Like this report number is 1696. All it means is the higher the number, the newer the report. It's not the numbers don't indicate any kind of classification by module. It's just as the reports get deployed. So when you're in the 1600s and 1700s, those are our latest reports. Okay, so I'm going to do this for, like, say 2018 to 2022. So what this is it's going to show me for the year any apparatus by type, okay, by apparatus type, okay, the vehicle ID, the apparatus ID, and we know those are two separate numbers. That's the call sign, that's its vehicle tracking maintenance number, where it's assigned, the actual cost, and so if you put that value in, it will give you a sum, kind of a preliminary budget planning for capital expenses, in particular apparatus. And so I captured a few years so I can show you this, but if you're a chief officer planning your budget, if this data has been entered into the system, and I'll show you where that's entered, because the good stuff you put in gives you good stuff out in these forms of these particular reports. So let me show you in admin. So this is report number 1696. And in the apparatus, why did you do that? In the apparatus list, the key fields you want to keep in mind in order to make this report work for you, they're not required fields. Initial cost, I like to use its anticipated replacement cost here, date in service, and when you expect to replace it. The middle one's not as critical, but it's always nice to know when you placed it in service. So if someone asks, how many years has this truck been in service, you can tell them, and then what year you expect to replace it. By putting those fields in, so here, well, if I ran it for 2010, this vehicle would be included, but it wouldn't show me a dollar value unless I enter that dollar value here, and then I get this nice report. So that I know that these vehicles don't have a dollar value in that field. Any questions on 1696? And between me and Mike, we should be able to answer your questions. Just pop them up in the window there. And by all means, too, if we stumble upon a report that you've been using, like I said, if you've got an example of it that's great in your account, let me know. Or if you want to add something, you feel free to type it, or I can unmute your mic and just chime in and kind of share how you're using it in your department. Okay, next up is 1697. So this is apparatus maintenance history for vehicle number for date range. So I can pick all apparatus, okay, or I can pick Let's go with an engine because I think we've got data in there. Engine 2. And I want to see everything we've done so far this year on it, but I'm going to actually pull it out to 2016. And if I want to, I can go all vehicles for engine 2 or only when engine 2 was shop number such and such. And since I don't know what its shop number was, I'm going to pick all, but this allows you to get down to a specific vehicle or multiple vehicles if you pick multiple. I'm going to just select all in this case to show you this report. And of course, we don't have any data. Let's see about 2017. There we go. So what this tells me is for engine 2 on vehicle number 09-4567, we had a major repair and a refuel. And again, you'll notice if you're using some of these, the reports are still being tweaked and fine-tuned to capture the correct data elements, because as we transition from the old maintenance module to the new maintenance module, some of the reports have to play catch-up. So if you've entered the data here, which I believe I did, and it doesn't show, it just means we're finishing up the data pool for this. But it's coming, and so this new report will at least give you some information. Eventually, it will give you all of these fields here, especially the dollar values here. Versus this will all be here, but the dollar values may not. So this report's pretty strong for getting down to just specific vehicles or a batch of vehicles that you want to see how much time you've spent on it and how much money you're spending on these vehicles. Again, the key is on the maintenance request to put, when you complete the maintenance, to put those values in. Otherwise, you won't get the good data out to be able to tell your story about what you're spending on your vehicles. That's a multi-picker. While we're in this on a multi-picker, what I want to show you, and again, many of you may know this, but I want to show it anyway. When you go to pick multiple, so let's say on this, all these shop numbers here, these apparatus vehicle numbers, I've got all my engines, and let's pretend these top 5 are the engines. I can go in here and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, enter those 5 here and move them from left to right. Remember this selection as engines, save it as a group, and then moving forward, I don't have to go in and pick them each time. I can just say, I want to run a report for all my engines for 2017, click or whatever date frame I select. I can do all apparatus here instead of just one apparatus ID, and it will show it here. And again, it's only going to pull those shop numbers, so that's why this report's different. I just randomly grabbed some shop numbers here, some vehicle numbers. So does that make sense? I hope that's helpful. It's a pretty neat report, especially from a fleet perspective. I mean, besides labor for career departments, it's the trucks that are the most expensive. Day-to-day operations, you can ascertain cost per miles pretty easily through all of this, and so good report number 17 or 1697. Okay, here's that report 1698. This is the driver summary report for personnel for date range. So I'm going to go 2017. My picker, again, I have a multi-picker, so I can do it per assigned person to apparatus. I can do it per shift, per station, and cluster them here. So regardless of where they're assigned, I can cluster them in any kind of group that I would like. So I'm going to run it for everybody for 2017. We don't have any data on this one. Let me see if we got it for 2016. Yep, here we go. So what this says to me is that Dave and Robert on apparatus engine 3 drove for an incident at least one time. So where this data is captured is here. Under incidents, add an actual incident, and it will only pull completed reports. When you're on basic 4 for an incident report, for an actual apparatus, so here Dave Adams is the driver. I can go in and click add roles, and what that report is looking for is every time I pick number 58, driver operate apparatus vehicle, it tallies up the count by 1. So this allows you to see for each incident, how many times that person is driven. Any questions on that? Mike, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay, so looking back at the last 3 reports we've covered, anybody using those right now or planning to use them? Type in some thoughts or ideas. I mean, you don't have to, but certainly any thoughts or comments are welcome here. Just chime in, and we'll share it with the group. Okay, pressing on. We'll go to 1699. So this is Apparatus maintenance history for Apparatus, so I can filter for Apparatus. Now I've got the ability to do maintenance types. So this is pulling by the Apparatus ID, not the vehicle number. But let's say I want to see engine 2 for this year, and I want to see the maintenance type. I can pick multiple, so let's say I want to see all of its repairs. I'm not worried about its inspections, I just want to know its repairs. What have we spent on fixing this thing? And I can sort it by date or done by. We'll do date. And in this case, you can see engine 2 had a major repair. And again, we're doing things fast in this demo account, but essentially it would show the title, any notes, and then the hours and cost. And so you can isolate out in this report, this is number 1699, the particular vehicle or vehicles, because it's a multi-picker, date, the maintenance type or types, and group them accordingly, and then sort by date. So this is good for hydro tests for SCBA cylinders, a really good report here for that. Hey, Chief McGarvey, I should have given you a shout out. You must have joined in after I did a shout out to people that came on, and also to, I see Roger Parker's on, our power user now at Elk Creek Fire Department, and Chief McGarvey out at Lower Marion, Pennsylvania. Chief, so on the last report, are you able to differentiate between the driver and the tiller driver? Oh man, great question. No, not currently. It's only looking at the activity for the driver, the NFIRS activity type for 58. And so there's not a differentiation between the tiller versus the the front seat driver. Great question. Great. Another question from Jeff. So going back, we're looking back at report 1698. So let's do that. Let's just peek at that so you guys can. So what we're talking about is what's up on the screen. Okay. So Jeff's asking, for the driver report, can you add the role to the roster so that it automatically adds to the incident? Okay, so that would be like magic. It would, and it's certainly doable, but right now it's all tied to this here. So even though Dave can be filled from a roster, the one thing you can do, Jeff, is if his role in the roster is driver operator, you can run a report for that activity code in the roster to show how many hours they've actually spent assigned as a driver. Not maybe the total minutes they've driven, but certainly the amount of time they spent as a driver operator. So using that as so you got the daily roster, you've assigned them the driver operator, you run a report for that activity code in the roster called, and again, not in the roster, you run that activity code for driver operator, you can see how many hours they were assigned as a driver. So that would be another way to get the data out of the system. Chief McGarvey, yes, we'll certainly consider it. Let me make a note of that. No promises there on how we're going to develop that or if we're going to develop it, but I will make a mention of it because that's a, you guys are kind of lucky enough and it's cool enough that you have, a tiller truck, but to be able to have that as a separate item here to document and be able to pull that so you can see. So tiller documentation. I will pass this along, but again, no promises on if it'll happen, but the word will get out for sure. All right, cool. Any other questions? Okay, we'll press on. No questions on 1699 on this
Hey,
one.
Tom,
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
one last question.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like Christopher, if you add the driver code for each run and not autofill. So basically, you just answered that, correct?
So you add the driver code for each run and not autofill. No, you can still autofill. It's gonna you want to fill your app, you want to fill from roster. That's no problem. But what you would do then, okay, so I follow you. So what you want to do, so on the roster, if Dave's assigned as the driver operator, it doesn't show here in this grid, but it will be in your daily roster. I would still assign them as drive and operate because then you've got the data in two different reports, one for the daily roster and then 1698 for the times that they've driven for an incident. This is only per incident. In the daily roster, it's capturing the entire time that they were a driver for that day. So I would use both, frankly. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, I can re-explain it, but just let me know, Chris, if that makes sense to you. So definitely still autofill your roster. This report won't have any idea that this incident won't have any idea that they're the driver, but it will in the daily roster. Then assign them for that incident 58, and you'll be good to go. Okay, cool. He's got it. Awesome. Yeah, there's just sometimes you got to massage things a little bit. But if you're making the most of the daily roster, which it sounds like you are, coupled with what you can do here in the incident, you've got two separate reports that you can kind of compile. So you can see that for Dave Adams, maybe he spent, he's a driver operator for a whole month. So say, a month full of 10 shifts. He was a driver operator assigned 240 hours, right? And then I compare that report. So he was assigned for being a driver operator for 240 hours, and then I run the report 1698 and say, oh, during that time period that he was assigned as a driver operator, they went on, 50 incidents. So you've got not only time spent or assigned to, because he's not driving for those whole 240 hours, but you also have how often or how many incidents he ran as a driver operator. So that's kind of cool, running those two reports. I hadn't even thought of doing it that way, but since Chief McGarvey mentioned that, I think that's certainly a good way to do it. Okay, time always flies on these, so we're about halfway through. Let's go back to our reports, and I'm going to go to 1700 now. We're still in the maintenance module. Okay, so let me refresh. This one, I got to talk about for a little bit here and how this plays out. So let's run it first for all vehicles. Again, we've got a multi-picker for apparatus and a multi-picker for vehicle numbers. Okay, call sign, shop number. I'm going to create this report. Okay, so what's happening here is there was the vehicle was placed out of service and then immediately placed back into service. Let me show you how this is driven here so you can see what takes place. And one thing I'm going to talk about is that we need to update, because I think it's good for the customer, it's good for trainers too, that we have a descriptor here that talks about where the data is being pulled from. And so many of our reports have this. Some of the newer ones don't, so we've got to update them. But it's always helpful because this goes, well, where is it pulling from and why? This little box on a lot of our reports gives you that information. Okay, so let's bounce out of this momentarily, and we're going to do a maintenance request. And we're going to sit on it for a couple minutes so I can show you how this works. So it goes all under the hood here. And so we're going to go to Apparatus. And I am going to add here in maintenance. So don't let me forget I'm going to do one that has nothing, engine 3, and I'm going to request maintenance. Okay, maintenance type, major repair, pump won't go into gear. Okay, now I'm going to also scroll down and I'm going to take it out of service. All right, as soon as I click request and close, the time starts ticking. So it's a requested maintenance still out of service. I'm going to let that sit for a minute, okay? And you probably have figured this out, but our new maintenance module you can email, and you can email to multiple recipients. You can pre-fill by personnel, just kind of cool stuff. And you can go to supervisors, fleet managers, and then to the vendor perhaps. And you can send that out. Since we're here, I might as well show it to you. So on engine 3, one other thing, again, just as a good to know, is whenever you have the red diamond warning symbol in an apparatus, so if I collapse everything, and I notice that here under the app infers apparatus type, the infers classification of 11, this is telling me that 1 out of my 7 apparatus, or 1 or more of my 7 apparatus, is out of service. That's what the red triangle indicates anytime you see it on the main category row. As I expand out, I can see which apparatus is actually out of service. Okay, so if I had multiple maintenance requests here, this would all show red because this truck's out of service. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a couple minutes so we can at least have a time period here to show you how this is going on behind the scenes. And then I'm going to go to report number 1701. And so we'll just take a temporary detour to occupancy module. And the reason mine's loading funny is probably my internet connection. I'm hogging it with GoToMeeting and everything going on right now. So I just refresh it and it should reload properly with the group parameters there. Okay, so I want to see fire inspection type per occupancy. So the per means it's not a filter. It's going to show all occupancies for inspector for date range of scheduled inspection. So I want to see all my annual inspections, okay, that are scheduled for all personnel, or I can pick I can group certain inspectors if I'd like, or if I had one called an engine company survey or pre-plan, I could use that and then group my shifts here, my company officers here. We're going to do it for 2000. I'm going to run a wide date range so I capture everything. So they see things that are scheduled into the future, and we got a question, so let me go over there. Will the maintenance request go outside to an outside email? Yes, absolutely. Does the recipient need an ERID and password? Doug, yes, they do. They need if you want them to access the maintenance item within your system. Now, if you just want to send them the work order so they see what needs to get done, then no, they don't need access to your system. What a lot of agencies are doing, or you should say it's recommended when we're teaching this, is that grant your fleet services or that vendor access to the maintenance module so then they can manage those work orders. And again, you've got to have a relationship and show them how to use the system and little things like that. But that is an opportunity to reduce duplication of effort and to share data. And they don't have, you can manage in your account, you can turn off all the other modules except for maintenance. So they don't need to see other parts of your system. So that certainly is an option. So part one, to your first question, it will definitely go to an outside email regardless of if they have access to emergency reporting. It's just the work order, the information that goes out. And then if you want them to help manage it, they would need access to your account. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Doug says yes. Okay, so here we go. 1701. What this is telling me is that for Josh, for example, okay, I'm going to highlight Josh here. He has a 30-foot inspection scheduled for the expansion apartment. The scheduled inspection was, and this is funny because this is our test account. The scheduled inspection is for May 21st. He last inspected it in 2021, so he's clearly a time traveler. Let's go down to the next one. And you can do that in our system. We're doing a lot of testing because this is what we're doing for our inspector app. That's coming out, and you guys will be willing to at the top of the hour. I'll stick around and give you a quick preview of it. But so Jay has a scheduled inspection for JS Bistro at April 3rd, 2018. It was last inspected April 3rd, 2017. And again, you can choose the inspection type the personnel, and the date range. Okay, cool report. Now we're getting into the custom questions reports, and I won't forget to go back to that other one on the apparatus on 1700. I'm definitely going to go back there. Okay, whoops, what did I just type? 1703. Okay, so this report, you got your filters, personnel, custom questions, incident types. Response percentage for custom question, for personnel, for incident date, incident type, for date range. Say that fast 5 times, and we'll give you a year's. No. So whenever you see the word for, and if there's a lot of them, just go to that report, because I do that. And I'm like, man, that's a killer report because I've got tons of filters, which means I can really almost ad hoc report here. Okay. And so I'm going to go all personnel, but I can knock it down to certain custom questions here that I want to review. We're going to do a date range of 2016, and we're going to do it for all incident types. But maybe I only care about EMS calls. And this is good because, we all know is that, William, I see your question, stand by for that. We know our custom questions, and those of you that have worked with me will probably mention this. Our custom questions, not yet anyway, are able to be selectable for incident type. So if I've got an EMS related question in my custom fields, it's going to apply to all incidents. You have to do an NA as a response. But here is where I can filter them. So all I care about is my 300 series calls for EMS, because it's EMS question. So say it was an EMS question here, I could select it. And so this report's so good because it gets you where you need to be quickly. And so when it runs, you're going to see how we have no data. Go all incident types. Okay, much better. So it's like one of the other, I don't have the number committed to memory, but it's like one of our other reports, with the exception of now you've got percentage of total. Okay, so this is telling me that, let's go down to this one. This call contains mutual aid equipment. What department provided the equipment? Green Hills, out of 3 calls, Green Hills provided it twice, Springdale provided it once. These numbers should add up to 100% or very close to it, like here, and with rounding. And this gives me my percentages. Unlike the other reports, the other reports that are like this don't have percentages. And they don't have the multi-pickers to knock it down to your specific question or questions and specific types, incident types or types. So I hope, and this is how it's supposed to be, I love it. Right here, report is grouped by questions, users, then answers. Answers data is broken into percentages, so forth and so on. But when you're looking at reports and someone asks you where's it coming from, this should help drive that and help you provide a clarity to that question. Okay, so let's take a look, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head. What is the difference between 1135 and 1701? I don't know. Let's look. So 1701. How are we doing on time? Good.
Is it the completed inspections? 1135 are completed.
So this is for scheduled inspections, correct? And I bet you're right, Mike. 1135, that's completed. So the difference, great catch, Mike. Okay, so the difference is 1135 shows completed versus 1701 is the schedule. It'll have the last completed inspection, but it's not going to give you a rundown of all the completed inspections. Does that help, William? Just let me know, and then we're going to go back to, I need to go back to the maintenance module. Excellent. Okay, good. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Maintenance, here we go. And I didn't forget, it's engine 3. Okay, so now we're going to go into this major repair, and I'm going to complete it. So under complete, I have the ability to complete by personnel or complete by vendor if a vendor does it. Okay, Apparatus hours currently in miles, and we're doing a little detour into the maintenance module, but now I'm going to put it back in service. It passed, and I'm going to complete and close. Now I no longer have that engine out of service. I can send an email that it's now closed, it's been completed, along with an additional message. Okay, and we have multiple recipients here, but I'm not going to send it. And just before we go back to that report, I do want to show you a new feature. Check this out. So engine 3, and it may have to flip over. So, oh, we may not have set. When you complete maintenance, what is it? Why is it not doing that for me? When you complete maintenance, it will appear in your daily log as a completed maintenance item. Why it's not showing, I don't have an answer for you right now. I was hoping to surprise and delight you there, and so much for that. But I've seen it in plenty of other accounts where it starts populating all the completed maintenance. I'll figure out why here in a little bit. Maybe Mike can take a look at that and see. But what I can show you is this. So a quick way to get reports relevant to your module is click to that reports button up there, and I'm looking for 1700 out of service time, and I'm going to run it just for engine 3 because I know that is one we have for this year, and it should give me a short period of being out of service. Yes, it does. So if it happened all behind the scenes, I took it out of service at 11:29, and we have an incredible fleet department that fixed it in 10 minutes and shows that it was out of service for a total of 10 minutes. But this will be cumulative anytime it's taken out of service, placed back in service, and it will be cumulative and give you its total out of service time. The key is that you're placing it in and out of service accordingly within the maintenance module. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. And I apologize for the it not populating in the daily log. I'm sure there's a good reason for that, but the report's working like it's supposed to work. Okay, no questions. Checking for questions. Okay. All right. So we were at 1702, if I'm not mistaken. The difference between 1702 and 1703, which we're going to now, this includes personnel. Okay, whereas 1702 also included personnel. Whoop, custom questions for personnel for incident type. Anyway, hold on. Let me make sure I get it right because I think I may have duplicated. No, 1702, stand by. That is your humble instructor mistyping on his notes here. So this is equipment out of service time for category or for subcategory. So I'm typing it right. My notes are wrong. 1702, same concept as 1700, except this is for equipment out of service, not for apparatus. Same exact concept. So let's see if we get lucky here and I can show you. Yes. Okay. So this is same thing. Instead of apparatus, it's pieces of equipment, and you can drill it down to specific categories and specific subcategories. That's 1702. 1703 is where we were just at on custom questions. And that's what we just covered a minute ago. 1704 So those of you in Nemesis 3, okay, Nemesis 3 states, and those of you that, all of you eventually will be, it just depends on when your state begins accepting Nemesis 3 data. When it does, we will communicate with you and switch your account from Nemesis 2 to Nemesis 3. They're coming, and you can go to the nemesis.org website and ascertain when your state, I gotta go to my other browser, when your state is actually doing that. I can show you briefly. So if you want to get in the loop on that, these are the state progress reports. And you can go into your state. So I'll pick Arizona, and we've been submitting Nemesis 3 data for for some time now. So that I'll put that in the chat window for you guys, and you can. I have two things I have to promise here. One, here comes that link to Nemesis 3, and Chris, we'll talk about this in a minute, Chris. I like your question. And then the other thing I need to put in there for you guys, and it's just a couple minute news story. But again, if you wonder, even fire news stories, fire calls, EMS calls, big wrecks, news media is even looking at how well departments are managing themselves now, and so this is a pretty neat story. I'll send that, and feel free to click on those links, save them as you see fit. Okay, jumping back. Chris, don't worry, I'm going to get to your question, and Michael, I'm going to make you the presenter here momentarily. Just stand by. So the Nemesis 3 state validation report for all statuses. Okay, these are the different statuses for the Nemesis reporting, and I can click the year or whatever time frame I want, and this is going to tell me per incident whether it's the date, the number, PCR number, and its submission status, whether it's valid or not. Okay, it's a table that you can see at a glance which reports were accepted or rejected by the state. Okay, so Michael, let me make you the presenter, and why don't you show the group what you want to show them.
Very good.
Okay, it's yours.
All right.
You have the con.
All right, so this is some live data from my personal department. Now, granted, as Tom's always told me and taught me well, that good data in beats good data out. So we're still fighting that battle with some department members. But what we're going to talk to you about now is some of the updated reports through ER. The first one is going to be 1031, the breakdown of structure fires and other fire incidents for a date range. Big change to that was they added a date picker to it, and we will check that out here real quick. So here's your date picker, date, month, quarter, year. So just for instance, you can select a specific date, or I'll just go to year. Now, granted, we're a smaller department, so we don't run a lot of structure fires. But again, that's how the report pulls up and looks like that. The property damage is dollar amount, of course, what you put in for the report. So I'm not sure how some of these numbers come up, but that's how ours look. And Tom, chime in again if you want to add anything to that.
No, you're doing great. Just that's good. Yeah, the difference on this report, like you said, was the date picker. Before we didn't have a date picker for this report.
Very good. And we're a little short on time, so I'm going to step up a little quick here.
Sure.
The next one we're going to show real quick is 1155, which is the assigned equipment for personnel in category and subcategories. The big difference here was they added a category and subcategory pickers. So look to the left side, and you have, we don't use this very well at our place, but you have different equipment categories. For instance, SCBA, face pieces, regulators, what we use it for. I'm just going to select all because I know the data is not the greatest. You can select each personnel, or you can select all personnel. Pull the report, and then the way it looks on here is the subcategories. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, is the equipment types obviously here. And any notes for that such. So
that's correct.
Good data in, dollar amount. So when it comes time to replace them down the road, you can use it for budgeting purposes, or if someone happens to leave their mask on a truck. And our way our masks are listed by number, so you can find out whose it is and get it back to them for that reason. The next one real quick is going to be 1643. This is the response time and custom fields per incident for a date range. So the big change on this was added a column to show the incident zone. So we're going to type in 1643. And you can select the incident type all. I'm going to select review just so it doesn't pull a lot of data real quick. You can use whatever zone, or you can add a specific response time if you want. For a year, I'll just select that real quick. And if you have different response modes, you can distinguish between which one you want. Give it just a minute here.
If any of you, while that's loading, if any of you are just fire-only customers, you'll notice that in your incident report, the response mode is not red. So I think that's because NFIRS has some opportunities to enhance. It's not a required field for NFIRS. Therefore, in our system to be compliant with NFIRS, we don't make it a red field that can be triggered, on and off by the customer. So it's a training element to make sure you're teaching the troops to select that response mode. If it's red, if you have EMS, it's red and they have to select it, so you're golden there. But some of you may be fire-only customers, and if that's the case, it's a training element to make sure that they're selecting it. And Christopher, don't worry, I haven't forgotten your question.
Okay, so the report's up here. The big difference was they had the zone column here. So depending how you set it up upon the initial launch, that'll show the quick distributed. We use this for tracking purposes. You got an echo. To add, if we can justify to add another, like we used this last year to add another ambulance on board, so we distinguish where our calls were happening and where a lot of our responses were. So I want to throw it out there, just FYI for custom fields. I don't know how many departments out there are tracking for, exposures. We did add these custom questions, and I think they're a pretty big deal. Kind of use it. We were able to pull out of old data to prove, let's say a firefighter pulled exposure to some cancer. We can kind of go back and track as far as what incidents they were responding to by these two questions we added here, the IDOH atmosphere. So this has actually already helped one of our firefighters who came down with a lung disease. We're able to pull all his previous incidents. So with that being said, Tom, you can do the other three updates if you want, so I'll give it back to you.
Okay, pass it back and give me just a second here. I want to answer Chris's question. And Chris, you're doing my workaround, my workaround for doing truck checks in the system. We're going to be releasing, and no promises because software is a tricky business. But I know it's on our roadmap. It's been greenlit. We are going to be doing a full-blown truck check within the system. But the workaround is to do like Chris is doing, is using the occupancy module to do that. There's steps to build that correctly. And then his question is, the problem is at the end of the year, we will have 365 inspections for each truck. The question is, can we archive the reports monthly and then run one of the reports you covered? You don't want to archive the inspections for the trucks because you really can't archive them. It ultimately deletes them. And so then the data is gone. So you would just have to kind of refine the report to block it by certain time periods. If I'm understanding the question correctly, that would be the way you would want to do it. I'd have to kind of see what you want ultimately, but you won't want to delete the historical. And in this case, your case, it's the truck check records via the occupancy module. But if it were a building, it'd be its inspection history. So yeah, don't delete them. Otherwise, you'll lose the records. Okay, so let's go. We got a couple minutes here. Give me just a second. I'm going to do something for you guys to show you later. Okay, so the next batch of reports I'm going to show you are the Nemesis 3 related reports. And I'm going to go through them one by one. The reports themselves have not changed, but those of you that are Nemesis 3, these reports now are pulling data from your Nemesis 3 EPCR. Incidents per medication for date range. So before, if you ran this report and you were Nemesis 2, you're only going to get Nemesis 2 data. I had a customer in Rock Island Arsenal, as a matter of fact, my buddy Darren Keith out there, he was asking me about this. I'm like, I bet it's not showing the last couple months. I bet that's when you switched over to Nemesis 3. Now it's going to show both Nemesis 2 and Nemesis 3. And I can't promise you we have anything in this one. I'd have to go to an account that has more EMS data in it. Yeah, and so it will show on both Nemesis 2 and Nemesis 3. We just haven't selected medications for the various incidents that we have in this module. That's 1064. 531, same thing, except this is for count of medications given. So not just incidents, but the count, how often you administered a certain med. And I'm sure I'm not going to have anything here because we didn't put that data in there. So that's 531. Another one is 1129. Incidents with transport destinations. So if you took a patient to the hospital, hopefully we have something here. Please have something here. Okay, so we're not, again, this report, if you ran it for your own agency, it'll show you this, and now it's pulling from Nemesis 3. So again, not new reports per se, or new filters for the report, just the ability for it to pull from Nemesis 3. Transport count, same thing, same report, just now it's Nemesis 3 data. And then transport details, which is 977. And you can run the transport details. Hopefully we have something here. No, of course not. But if I went into an EMS account, we'd have all sorts of good data. But these are the columns that will appear in this report. So some pretty good reports now that those of you that have moved over to Nemesis 3, you'll be able to capture that. Eventually, all of those previously used EMS reports for Nemesis 2 will pull data from Nemesis 3. Just hang in there with us. That's a high priority project for us, and so we're working through that because more and more states are switching over to Nemesis 3. So Chris, you're welcome regarding the truck check forms and documenting that, and then yeah, keep an eye out for that module. It's coming, and we'll be talking it up pretty good. So as we wrap up, are there any other questions on any of the reports I've put forth today? And what I can do, I don't know if you've been taking notes, but let me do this. Let me share the link to the PowerPoint for today so you can see all the reports we covered. The only thing we really didn't have time for was to go into the different maintenance module reports that have been updated. But essentially, it's same reports that are now functioning correctly with the new maintenance module. So let me do this. Give me a second here. I'm going to send you this PowerPoint so you can see everything that we've covered. It's via Dropbox, and you'll just be able to, it's basically the PowerPoint I showed at the beginning, but it lists all of the incidents we covered, and these were all of the incidents, no, all of the reports that have been changed or added to the system since January of 2017, January 1st, 2017. So if I could, and you guys feel free to chime in a response here, was this valuable to you, and would you like to see kind of an overview of new reports every quarter? And that way it can kind of give us an idea if we want to do this on a quarterly basis to kind of get you up to speed, because it's hard to keep up, even for us trainers, all the changes in the system. And so if we did this quarterly, at least we give you an hour rundown of all the new reports in the system, and you go, yeah, I need that one, or man, I didn't know you had that one in the system. So yeah, so far it's a positive response. So yeah, you'd like to see an overview quarterly? Absolutely. I think we'll start putting that on our calendar and doing that quarterly on a virtual Thursday. All right, to close out, if there's no other questions about the different reports we covered today, and Mike, I can't thank you enough for joining in. Great job. Thanks for taking the screen for a little bit and showing that. You're off to a good start, man.
Thank you.
All right, last thing I want to show you guys is our new inspector app. Those of you that do building inspections, we've got this releasing next week, and I just want to give you a sneak peek on it since you guys took the time out of your day to do this. And here's what it's going to look like. Once you've logged in, you've got the grid, and you can search by those 4 columns there. And so I'm going to do, because I've been working with this building, I'm going to do a search for the Archer Ale House. It'll give me, it'll search it, and I'm not going to go offline, because if I do, you won't be able to see my display here, but this also functions in the offline mode. And I'm going to go into that building, And at the bottom I have my buttons, and this is good for, this is iOS, Android, and Windows. And this is all of my building info, the basics. This is my fire related, especially when it comes to safety and access page, the building info page. Hazmat. And again, this is going to mirror what you're familiar with within our system, within our system today. It's just going to have a tablet friendly format and the capability of working offline. You can do an inspection, and I'll pull one up that we did previously. It'll load just like you would if you emailed it to the customer. We're just playing around demonstrating it, and that whole inspection report appears there, and I can send an email. And then if I wanted to start a new inspection, I can start one. Oop, I lost it. Hold on one second. They're putting the finishing touches on it, and I may have an earlier release. So just a second here. Oops. Okay, while that's loading, just want to look. Everybody that gave feedback, thank you. Quarterly is good. I agree. Jim, thank you. Jennifer, thanks. William, thanks. Yeah, you started back on January 1st and learning. Yeah, there's tons to learn. Just it's never ending. Christopher's going to play around and check my notes with the reports numbers. Yep, you bet. You're welcome for all the updates. Greg Anderson, when did you join in? Greg's one of our Western reps. He's using the Windows version of the Inspect DR, and he's saying it works great after Tuesday's update. And I clearly need an iOS update. Let me go back to that building. And I'll just show you quickly the inspection element. Yep, it's crashing on that one button. Okay, so that's embarrassing, but I can tell you that this is the pre-release, and they're making updates almost daily to it. So it does work and does work well. And I won't take up any more of your time right now. But I'm here for questions for the next few minutes if you have them. Otherwise, guys, thanks so much for attending. I know pretty much everybody who's jumped in has stayed the whole time, so thank you. And wish you guys a good Friday tomorrow and a very good weekend. Once again, thanks to our frequent attendees today that joined in, as well as Mike for helping out, Greg for jumping in. And if there's nothing else, I will stay on for a couple minutes and we will close out then. Thanks, everybody. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. We'll see you guys. Our next one is going to be in 2 weeks. So April 20th will be our next virtual Thursday, guys. Thanks again. And
Thanks a lot.
I got a question from Chris. Go ahead, Chris. I'll stay for you. Keep finishing entering your question. So he started when entering in training. I'll go there right now. Is he still with us?
Yeah, his second part is uploading a document to the training event. The window won't allow you to close it after uploading it.
Let's take a look. So when uploading a document to the training event, we go to files and make sure I'm on the right process that you're doing. So we're going to add a file. Is that right, Chris? I'm going to upload my file. So let's say I want to do 98% mockup. It's done. I click close, and it's there. So it could be, what browser are you using? Did I do that? Was that the process you were doing that was allowing you to close the window? Because I'm in Firefox for Mac. So what browser are you using? And if it's recurring and you tried on another computer and it does the same thing, send an email directly to me, tom@emergencyreporting.com. It's real easy, tom@emergencyreporting.com. Send me a screenshot and we'll get it into support and see what's going on. I can't replicate it here in Firefox, so I'll need to know. I'll just need to know what your browser is and if you can get me a screenshot of when and where it's happening. Internet Explorer. Okay, try Chrome or Firefox. Internet Explorer, we're compatible with it, but Internet Explorer it's just funky. It just does, it's not happy. And so we run into some issues. But grab the screenshot. It could be security settings, could be Flash, because I think we use Flash for some of our uploads. So yeah, I'll stay with you. Try Firefox, and then I'm going to jump back over to Jim. Is there a report that shows time spent on incidents that include personnel not assigned to Apparatus? Ooh, good question. I think so, but I'm not certain. I'd have to test it to verify it. So what we got to do here, it's one of these reports, and you may have run these already. So not payroll related, that's the one we want to run unless you're using payroll. And then what we need to do, and I think part of the issue is that they're on an apparatus. Let's see what the criteria. Only personnel responding to incidents on an apparatus is included on this report. Okay, so you probably have tried this one and come up short because they may have been a POV response. Okay, let me think for a second how we want to do this. There is a way for personnel not on an apparatus. You could, are you using the payroll module? You are. Okay. Ooh, well then, try this report. Actually, no. Let's try, that one might do it. Let me see first of all. I may have something for you here. Let's see. Total time, let me just see the descriptor. Not associated with an apparatus. Okay, we're not done. I got one possibility here. So if you're using payroll, this should, because if you have it as part of your incident report, you have to put in hours for all people, not just people that were on an apparatus. So those other reports are locking us down to just personnel and apparatus. This report should show all the incidents they went on. Okay, let's see if I can get a better report for somebody else. We're not using it in this module, but it should show, this is for training, so this should show the incident, the number of hours, and their pay rate, and give you a multiplier. Try that one, 1633, and see if it gets you there, because I know that if you're using payroll for incidents, when you go to the last page, the second to the last page, where you put in don't have it turned on, but I can turn it on here quickly. Well, we do have it turned on. Okay, good. So here, even if they're not on a truck, it will show as other, and you have to document their hours and then the multiplier for their pay grade. So even though you can't run those other reports based on Apparatus, you can run a payroll report for other. And if you're using this, this should pop up for your incidents. Is that helpful? Is that going to get you what you need? Okay, so I'll wait for Jim's response, and then Chris, yeah, try it on Firefox and Chrome, see if it still does it. Are you on a DoD computer by any chance? If you aren't, do me a favor, send me a screenshot and send me the version number of both Edge and IE, and we'll have our development team test it and see what's going on. It could be a setting within the browser itself, and I'd have to get in there and look at it to see, but that's a possibility. Okay, Jim, let me know. Tom at emergencyreporting.com. If you need something else, let me know. Hopefully that'll do the trick. And just let me know. Okay, not a DoD computer. Okay, yeah, it's IE. It's Mike. I'm a Mac guy, so I can diss on Microsoft, but yeah, it's their browser. Just send me the info, and I'll get it up to our support team. In train, same issue. Okay. Okay. Could be flash settings too. All right. We'll troubleshoot. We'll hopefully get an answer for you. I'll make sure our support team gets this, and we'll troubleshoot it and see what's going on there. All right. Great. Wow. Excellent. Great event today, guys. Thank you. Thank you for the questions, the participation, and yeah, even though we went on some off topic here, it's great. You got us here. You might as well ask those questions. So I'm going to keep it open 2 more minutes, and if there's nothing else, I'll close it after 2 minutes. But other than that, thanks again, everybody.